Hey everyone, Zach here, and welcome to the 31st lesson of this RTS tutorial series. In this lesson, we'll be spawning in our preview mesh. In addition to this, we'll also have our mesh follow our cursor around the map. That said, fire up your editor, and let's get started. Welcome to our shiny editor screen. I had to think of a new line. That was pretty bad. I apologize. Alright, so I actually was looking at my plans for the lesson and I realized I've done a lot of things I was going to do in this lesson and the last one. Like just created the interface, pass the reference, and add 1 BP for each of the classes. So what I'm going to do instead of all of that is just quickly, we're going to open up a master real quick and I just want to explain what's going on here. So in this construct script, what happens is the second a file of this class, so any of the children are created, it's going to create these meshes. And that's why when we spawn in, say our, our factory, it instantly has this mesh. It's all it's doing. It's passing in saying, hey, have something to spawn in. And then we're telling it what in the particular BP of this factory, what mesh it needs to spawn in. That's all that's going on there. Just wanted to explain that construct script since I think I flew through it last time. So what we need to do now is spawn in our, we need to give the ability to spawn in or pass the information on what we want to spawn in. And if we look at our main HUD here, so let's open it up, we have these 4 buttons. Well, we want to spawn in one of these 4 things. And we need to be able to say from this blueprint, this HUD blueprint, or this widget blueprint, to the preview master, or to the preview building BP. I'm just going to double check what I've named it now because I'm now blanking on it. Preview building, yep. What we want to spawn in. And in fact, we're going to have a response on this side when that happens. So, you know, we have these 4 buttons. Let's just grab one of them real quick. And we'll scroll down. Sorry, I grabbed the text. Let's grab the button and we'll do on clicked. And we get this. We get this on clicked factory button, which is all nice and lovely. And if we click it, nothing happens currently. Now, you might think, well, we need to do 2 things here. We need one, set the construction mode, so our building mode in our controller to active. We can try to do that here. We could very easily grab our controller reference, grab off of it, and go is building, or get set building mode active, set that to true, and plug this in. However, that won't work. I do not know why, it just does not work, which is fair enough. What we need, however, is to grab a reference to that interface. Sorry, not the interface. We need to grab a reference to our construction preview. And we need to make it expose and something we can edit. So we're just going to create a new variable here, and this will be our construction preview ref. And this reference file will be exposed on spawn and will be something we can edit. Yes, I'm still avoiding that word. And this will be, of course, our preview, building preview. And I'm just going to put this into our references folder. Where is it? There it is. And we'll pass this reference through in the player controller, which I've closed because I'm still thinking about the last video. But what we need to do is just drag off of here, and we're going to make a call, or send a message, sorry, to our construct building. So we have a call function, and we have this interface call. Well, none of these are right now, so we need a message. The reason why it's not right is there's actually another way to do this. So if you don't want to have to hit the context sensitive, is you can start by putting in what the message is going to inside the construction preview, which is actually the next thing we will do, and then dragging off the construction preview and looking for this message. Let me just right click and set to context sensitive back on and plug this in. So instead of what I mean is instead of doing it in the order we've done it in, you can do this backwards, and it might be a little bit more easy for someone who's struggling with this material. So as you can see here, we have this building master class, and we can set it. And we've chose the factory button, so I'm just going to find factory in here. Now instead of doing this, we could have just created a custom function in our preview folder here that takes in a class reference that we had to create a variable for. So we can create a variable that is the same thing as what we're doing here, but we would have to do one for every one of the buttons. That's what I was talking about in the last video. So instead of doing that, we just use the interface. It's slightly more efficient in terms of, from the programming side of things, and it is slightly more efficient in terms of the amount of overhead. There's less work the system has to do. So I'm just going to do a, let's see, where are my other buttons? So we have our build barracks, just grab that, and actually on clicked, build silo, on clicked, and it was factory at the top right, silo factory, training post, on clicked. There we go. We have all 4 of these now. Just going to drag them over here, and I'm just going to duplicate this 4 times. And I'll line them up to be prettier in a second. So just drag that up there. This is our barracks, so our barracks button. So I renamed them so we know what they are, and that'll be our barracks BP then. This will be our silo. So get our silo from there. And this last one is our training post. And if I can see my training post, there it is. I feel like I'm saying trading post or trapo. Sorry, yeah. So that sets the buttons up. Now, what needs to happen is in our construction preview, it's receiving this message, do something with this. We haven't told it what to do yet. And that's the step you could have done first instead of this part, by the way. So in here, in our construction preview, what we are going to do is we're going to create 2 new custom functions. Actually, sorry, we're going to create 1 new custom function, and we're going to pull our interface function. Let's do the interface function first, and then we're going to type in construct building. And we had this add event construct building. You can see it's coming from the RTS construction interface. So we wanted to make sure it comes from the interface. It has that little icon there. And what we are going to do is we are going to spawn an actor from class. Now, there's a reason why we're passing this class from here, from the user interface. So it's sending this bit of information through the interface to the preview. So we can literally just drag off of here and plug into there. And you'll notice we suddenly get all these other things that come into that class that we've already set up earlier. So the first thing we're going to do, this spawn transformation, let's just take care of this. We'll do it the same way we did before. We want an empty transform. And the reason why we want an empty transformation is what we're really worrying about here is we want the correct mesh and material to load in. That's all this is going to really be used for. Later on, next video, we are going to tie that to the movement. Actually, is it the next video or is it this one? I think it actually is this one. We're going to tie that later on in this video to the movement of the mouse. So we have our player controller. We can just drag that into there, and that's all set up. So next thing we need to do then is we need to create our, let's just make sure this works real quick. Let's just hit play for a second. This should actually spawn in right on the trees. It doesn't seem to be. Okay. I know why it's not spawning. That's fine. That's actually the next step we need to take care of. So, like usual, what we wanted to do is once it starts to spawn in, we want to make sure that there is nothing already spawned in. So we're going to just destroy the preview in case there is. So we're just going to call that function up there, that destroy. Sorry, I shouldn't say function, this custom event. Notice we have nothing off this custom event yet, so it's not going to do anything when we do that. That's fine though for now. Actually, we're going to unhook this, and we're going to create that custom event that actually spawns in the preview. So we'll do a right click, custom event, and this will be spawn preview. And we need a couple of inputs. We need one to know what we're previewing, so that's again the class. That is our building class. which will be of our building master. But again, it's not an object reference, it's a class reference. And we need to know what mesh that building has. So that display mesh we created, we are going to actually set it here. And that will be, again, a static mesh. Alright, so we're going to actually do something else. We're going to create a bool just to make sure that this only fires if we are not currently previewing something. So we don't already have a preview up. So we're going to create a new boolean, and that will be is previewing. I'm going to put it in my favorite folder, my bool folder. And we'll just drag off of here. We're going to get it. And we are going to do a branch. And we're actually going to have the true and false come to the same area in a minute, but we're first going to do this. We're going to start with the false. If we are not currently previewing something, then we want to promote this to a variable and get our building class. We're going to set it. Again, this is coming off the false. So if we are not currently previewing. And now that I have that pin set up, actually I'm going to change this just slightly. There we go. Give myself a little bit of room and move that there. Off the true, I'm going to now type in destroy preview. This is just to be on the safe side, to make sure that we get rid of anything we might already be previewing. And I'll go into there. Okay, so we now have set our display, our class. Now we need to set the mesh for that class. What we pass through in that construction script. Sorry, yeah, the construction script on the building master. So it's going to get passed into here down the road. So we'll just drag off of here and we'll promote to variable. And this will be our display mesh. And we'll drag this display mesh over here. Set it after the building class, put a couple of reroutes in so the wires are just so much easier to read and it doesn't look so hectic and confusing. There we go. Now we need to set our is previewing to true. So we'll default it as false, but when we come off of here, we want this to be true. Okay. So we're actually going to have something that goes between the next part, but we're going to do that in a second. I just want to finish this section first. What we need then is to actually set our static mesh for the preview. So we're going to do set static mesh, and you see we have this preview building mesh already selected, already with the brackets in there, puts it in for us nicely. Just put that in there, makes our life so much easier, and we'll grab our display mesh as our new mesh and set it there. Okay, so when we destroy our preview, we're pretty much undoing all of this. But to do so, we want to clear out these variables. So we're just going to highlight these three, paste them here, and just plug that into there. So that since these are empty, I'll also set that to false. Since these are empty, these now become null. There is nothing set in here. These are empty variables. This gets set to false, and that actually doesn't clear out everything. There's one more thing we need to clear out, and it's this last little bit here. Because we have passed into our static mesh this display mesh, we need to actually clear out our preview mesh from whatever our display mesh is. So we're going to just copy that down here. Oop, sorry. We're going to copy that down there, and we're going to plug that into there. So what's happening now is we clear out our building class, we clear out the display mesh, we set this back to false. Because we've cleared out the display mesh, when we go to set this new preview mesh, it's set to this empty display mesh. There is nothing there for it to become, so it becomes an empty variable on itself. So we've now reset our static mesh. The next thing we need to do is, I'm just going to plug this back into here, is we need to spawn in our preview. But to do so, and this is where it gets a little bit weird, is we're going to have to make a cast to our class. So I'm just going to put a reroute into there. So that's our class right there, sorry. And we're going to cast to our building master. There's our building master. I shouldn't put master on so many of those, unfortunately. And that actually happens before we destroy the preview. I don't know why I plugged that in. Just going to plug that into there. Line that up nicely. We're going to plug that into there. Put a few reroutes in so you can see what is going on here, because otherwise this is really painful to read. In fact, actually this one is a little bit hard to make look pretty and easy to read, unfortunately. That's just the nature of the beast here. I apologize. Alright, so the reason why we need this is we're actually going to take this information, we're passing it along to here, to this spawn preview. So I'm just going to drag off of here, and I'm going to type in spawn oh, sorry, I can't do it from there actually. I'm going to drag from here, type in spawn preview. So we're calling this function from here. So we're going to get the class, and we're passing it through into there. What did I do wrong? Building master. RTS building master BP class. I am just double checking. Oh, I put the wrong. Okay, so this is going to be slightly problematic. We need to unhook this. Otherwise, we're going to run into issues. So we're going to redo this as RTS building. This is why I said I shouldn't have put master after so many. Building master class. And you notice when we try to plug this in, it won't let me. Okay, I'm slightly worried it is letting me. Alright, because it's a child, that's why it's letting me. This should be RTS building master class. Yes, change the variable for the love of God. Sorry. Now let's compile. Please plug in. Yes, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Now it should work. I'm tempted to go back and delete the word master from so many of those files. So what we want to do is we want to target the display mesh that we've set inside the building master. And we're going to pass that through here. So remember, in that construction script, we have the display mesh here. That's running in all the children, and we've set the display mesh in for those children in the silo and the barracks and all the other things. We want to target that mesh and pass it through. So we're going to get that mesh by targeting it here. So display mesh. So we want to get it. And as I said, we want to pass this through to our display mesh here. So when we pass this through, this fires, it takes a class in the mesh and it sets it here. It then sets that mesh again so it displays correctly. So we hit compile, hit play. It should now spawn something in at the center of the map. Of course it doesn't. Because I want to have this always spawn ignore collisions. That's why. Okay, that may not be why. Let's just quickly debug this. Gonna switch that over, and I'm gonna just move this to their screen so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so it is. We're just gonna add that breakpoint in. There we go. Huh. You know what? It's done this to me before. And I do not know why it's done this. The only fix that worked was literally redoing all of this. I don't know why. But instead of doing that, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pause for a second. And I am going to close the file out and restart to see if that resolved the issue. Well, fortunately, it isn't as complex as having to rebuild everything like I thought it might be. I said in the last video we were going to set up a pass a reference, this construction reference, and we clearly haven't. So inside of your player controller, all you need to do is grab your construction reference, plug that into there. We're telling it to pass a reference through something. So we were telling it to pass something to the construction preview, and it didn't know what the construction preview was because we hadn't told it yet. So now we do that. It'll spawn in a factory, the training post, the barracks in the middle of that, it's too small to be seen, and the silo, all in one spot, which is not very useful. Well, what we needed to do then is to follow the mouse. We also need to get rid of the previews when we were previewing. So, well, to do that, first thing we need to do is, let's actually go to our player controller first. We're going to create a new function that will be our way to check, are we in building mode or not. So inside of our player controller, like I said, we're going to create a new function that is set building mode, or set, I have it as building move for some reason, building mode active. Just gave me a little bit of a heart attack there for half a second. Like, why do I have something called move? And there was clearly a typo. And what we're going to pass through is a boolean, and this will be is active. And if we find our bool in here of is building mode active, we're just going to grab that, set that there, drag off of here, and do a return node. We don't need to return anything off of this, fortunately. Compile, and go into our preview. And off our preview, we're just going to hook this. We're going to unhook this, and we're going to unhook this. We're just going to move them down a tiny bit. And what we need then is our, we need a reference to our player controller. So we're going to get our player controller, and we're going to do set building mode active. Highlight that. Plug these into each other. Plug that into there. Just going to give myself even more room. Move all of this over this way. Grab the player controller, set it there. And then we're going to take this value, this return value off our set is previewing, into here. And I'm just going to put a reroute into there so it's a little bit neater. We're going to do the same thing over here as well. Just move this a little bit further down actually before we put that into there. So grab all of that. It's not as far down as it could go, but hell, it works for now. Or heck, it works for now. Plug that into there. Plug those into there. And now we set it active into our controller. And the next thing we need to do is we need to tell it to follow the controller pretty much. It just makes our life a little bit easier setting this up now. And to do so, what we're going to do is we're going to, sorry, I'm just making sure I'm doing things in the order I said I wanted to do them in. I'm actually not sure if when I want to do that function. So we want to have it follow our mouse. So we are going to need an event for that to work. We're going to need a tick event actually. So let's just go down here and let's create a tick. So we have our event tick, and we only want this to fire when we are in our build mode. So our preview is active. There's a few ways we can do this. We can have a is active, but it doesn't stop it. We have to loop back to get that to stop. What I mean by that is, if we have branch is previewing, it's gonna, if we change the is previewing, it's gonna check it's gonna check that a lot. Whereas we can just have it as a gate where it doesn't have to check it. It can be open or closed. It's just slightly more efficient. Yes, again, you can do this as a branch. So when it opens, we will then have the tick go in, and we will move our actor. So to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to set actor location, and we are setting the location based on where the mouse is. We'll take care of that in a second, and we're going to get the object we're moving is the blueprint itself. So we open this gate when we spawn in our preview. We also could open it when we construct it, but honestly, if we open it when it constructs, it's going to be a little bit early. So we want to do it as the last thing that happens. So to do that, we're just going to right click down here and do custom event. We're going to do open gate. And we're going to plug this open gate into open here. We're going to do a close gate event as well. So another custom event of close gate. And plug that into the close. So up here, we're going to do open open gate. All right, there we go. And now we want to close that gate as well. So, well, we want to close the gate fairly early on. I would actually close the gate the second we destroy the preview, just so we don't have all of this extra stuff that could potentially be happening in that tick event going on. So we'll do our close gate down here, plug that in, give this a bit more room because that was right on top of everything. Plug that into there. So we close the gate instantly when we kill the actor, which means we stop following the mouse. And everything else goes off right after that. It looks really weird without the second reroute to me for some reason. Don't know why. That just looks better to me. Compile that. Alright. So now what we need to do is get this location. And this location will be set in our preview, of course. It, however, needs some information. It's going to come from somewhere else. It's going to come from our player controller. And to do that, we're going to actually create a new variable here. And that new variable will be cursor world position. So it will be cursor world position, as I said. It'll be where our mouse is relative to our virtual world. This is a vector. And no, that is not just going into there, because it's a little bit more nuanced than that, because we're talking about a large 3D object. This is also with part of that pivot point. If it isn't dead center on the bottom, you're going to need to compensate slightly for, as I mentioned earlier. Since we are getting this from our player controller value that goes into here, we need something that sets it here, or gets it actually in this case. So we are going to do a new function called getCursorPosition. And in our getCursorPosition, we are just going to have this set here. And we are setting it from our cursor location in. Again, this is a vector. Or we're getting it actually. I know it's setting here, but we're actually getting it from where we've set it earlier. And just like our other function earlier today, we don't need anything on the return node. We just need to return it. This will be a pure, no it won't. Sorry about that, that won't be a pure function. I don't know why I said that was gonna be pure. Just making sure I'm not going crazy. I know it is not pure. Our other function today, from this point forward, will mostly be pure, which is why I was thinking that. So if we go over here, we have this event. Are we holding down? Are we doing these things for our for our unit selection? We now need to consider what our building requirements look like here. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to drag down here, and we're going to do another branch. And off this branch, we want to know a couple of things for our conditions. We want to know, one, are we in building mode? Because if we're not, there's no point to be doing this. And, so I'm just going to put the and in now. We want to know, do we have a valid preview? If we don't, then we don't want to waste the resources moving the mouse and recording its position if there's no valid preview. So what we want to do is get this, and we want to know, is there something in the preview file? And so we're going to type in exclamation mark, so not equal. Is it not equal to nothing? So is there some value? Not equal to nothing means there is something there. The reason why we're doing this, remember when we kill our preview, go back to our event graph in the preview, when we kill it, we're erasing everything in here pretty much. We're getting rid of any value. We want it to have some value and we want to be in building mode. If both of these are true, if this has value and we're in building mode, then we want to record our mouse position. So to do so, we're just going to take our construction preview, we're going to get it, and we are going to call that function of getCursorPosition. We want the function, not the variable. We're going to plug this into the true here, and we want to get our cursor world position. Well, if you remember, we already wrote this code. Something can do that for us. Let me see if I can find it. It's right here, set cursor world position. We already have something that sets it for us. And that's in our function library. So we can honestly just right click, set cursor world position. Skip the L there. Set cursor world position. And I'm just going to plug that into there. And just because to be AL retentive, we'll type in self here. And I'm going to scroll down back to where that was. There's a reason I went down here actually, and I skipped that step, which is to copy the site distance. Now we will change this in a later video to make it smoother, but we just want to make sure this works. So compile that, save it as well. Let's go back to our preview, make sure that everything's there. So now that we've done that, we need to plug something into our new location. What we're going to plug into our new location is a new function we haven't created yet. We're going to create that right now, and that will be our grid snaps. This is how the how the mesh moves along our grid. What we want to do is we want to get our cursor position. We want to break this, so we're going to split the structure, and we want to, and I hope I did this right, because I did this wrong in the test file several times until I realized I had the wrong numbers in. We want to add 50 to this. So we want to raise this slightly on the X position, and we want to do so on the Y position as well. I'm just actually going to do everything on the X first. We're going to do floor, because it's literally the same across the X and the Y, which then turns this into a rounded integer. We then want to create a new variable. This will be our snap value, and this will be of a type integer. And I recommend playing around with this to see what works. Compile it real quick so we can add a default in. I'm going to default it out to 100. There are different ways to handle the snap value. There are some that will make it smoother, some that will make it less smooth. You will actually do a sort of moderate smoothness on this one, and then later on get a smoother version working. We're just going to drag this in here. We're going to do it a couple of times actually, but we're just going to drag it in once. And I'm dragging off the wrong one. Off this floor, we're going to do divide. We're going to do integer divided by integer. And we're going to divide that, the snap value, by, or sorry, the floor, this return off the floor by the snap value. And I, for the life of me, cannot work out the maths on this, even though it is not what it appears to be. We're not undoing this. We are going to multiply this return value by the snap value. It has to do with how this is rounded. You actually get a different value when you do this. I know it doesn't seem like it should give you a different value. It should return what was originally here, but it doesn't. It genuinely doesn't. It took me a while to actually work out that this is something we had to do. I was like, well, when I first tried to do this, it wasn't moving. This always would say at 0. When I put something into here, I would suddenly get a value that actually did something. And I'm just going to drag off of here. I don't think I can just directly. Oh yeah, I can. That's the wrong sort of vector. I'm going to type in make vector, and I'm just going to plug that into there. It has that conversion for me already. Now, as I said, literally everything we've just done here is going to be the same on the Y. So I'm just going to grab all of this, duplicate it, not unhighlight hopefully. I'm just going to plug the Y into there, and just raise that up a tiny bit. That can go into there. So what we're getting, we're getting the value of the cursor position. We're adding 50 on the X and Y. We're rounding it. We are dividing that by our snap value. We are taking that value and somehow getting a new value when we multiply it by snap value, and we're plugging that into a new vector. Now we don't want it at 0, 0. We want it wherever our mouse is. So we're going to plug in our our Z into our Z there. If we have it at 0, it's actually going to show up partway into the map. Because remember, our map's at 100 something. I think 110 or 100 even maybe. Just clean this up a tiny bit. And what we want then is, of all things, we are doing all this math just to get a return. Yep. That was literally just so I can type in the word return here. I'm going to straighten that out a tiny bit. We're going to highlight everything down here just so I can move this down and make it a little bit neater looking. On the return, what we're going to have is our return value. So we're just going to put that into there. Don't know why you're saying you're not in the same position. You are. Whatever. We'll throw this return value mouse position. Or actually, have we named it? We're going to call it mouse position because we've done cursor location already. Or actually, snap position. would be better, or snap location. So if we go back to our event graph, what we then are going to take is our grid snaps. And like I said, everything after this point is going to be appear. Before I even drag that in, let's make that a appear function. Put that in there. Hello, put that in there. All right, now when we hit play, we hit factory. Ooh, hello. We're having a little bit of an issue. It's flying off the map. Also, we have that one down there as well. So we have two. For some reason, one's flying off the map and one isn't. Now, I intentionally did this, by the way. The fix for this is up here, actually. We want to, just grab that real quick. And we're going to move all of this over this way. And what we are going to do is we are going to drag off of this, and we are going to do destroy actor. And the actor we want to destroy, of all things, oddly, is the one we've just created over here. Let's plug that into there. There is no nice and easy way to do this, unfortunately. Also, I shouldn't have plugged that into there. What I want is a sequence. So I'm going to do a sequence. I'm going to drag that into there and drag that into here. Remember what I said, what we're doing is we're creating this thing just to get the mesh and pass it along. That's what's in the center of the map. What's following the cursor down here is this, is the one we create up here. So let's try that. This should now work, except for it's above the map, which is a bit weird. That actually shouldn't happen. At least that really, yeah, that really shouldn't happen. Let's just double check I haven't done something awkward inside of here. Just want to make sure this is actually set correctly. 50-50. Yep, that is right. So the other place this is set is in here. Let's just make sure that for some reason that I haven't done something weird in here, because it's been a while since we've actually looked at this. So everything seems right in here. We will actually take care of that later on. Question mark. Yeah, that really shouldn't matter. In fact, I'm just going to quickly test it in my test file to make sure that it shouldn't have that. No, that shouldn't matter. Okay. So, Just going to quickly grab my landscape, make sure it's at the same height as my preview file. Yeah, they are. Okay, so what is going on that is causing that issue? Let's open up our master preview here. Let's look at our components real quick. And what's happening, because I skipped a step that I even made a note to myself to make sure to do, is we need to change our collision. So this thing should not be colliding. It's a preview. It's not actually anything that's going to exist in the game world. Therefore, it should be able to overlap all. So we want overlap all, compile, and now it should, there we go, work nicely. And it's following the map. We have that little bit of jitteriness. We'll take care of that down the road. If we right click, it goes away. If we left click, nothing happens. And we can even change what we are previewing. There we go. It's following our mouse nicely. I'm not sure what our mousely is. Sorry about that. And that, honestly, as I'm looking at my record time, takes us pretty much to everything I wanted to do in this video. We'll actually do the overlap in the next video, but really quickly, sorry, that's the part we just said was the overlap. That's the thing I have it on. If you don't do that, and you can actually get it to spawn on the map, which I was able to in my last version for some reason, the test file, you can push your pawn off the map, and I was going to show you that to you, but for some reason, in this version, it spawned above the map, and I just can't explain why on that one. So, there's a little bit of an issue, actually, which we can't see easily, but which is, I'm going to spawn in a unit here, select them, and then I do that, well, they're still selected. Now fortunately they can still move after I've done that, but once I go into build mode, let me re-highlight them. Once I go into build mode, I can't select anything. I can't deselect them. They're still selected. We're going to get rid of that issue. We will set up our site distance so it's a little bit smoother in the controller. So instead of having this default value at 1,000 there, we'll actually set it based on the location of this sphere. So right now, if I zoom all the way out, I can put it pretty much, it's not overlapping correctly because it's it doesn't scroll correctly based on our zoom. It doesn't scroll, sorry, it scrolls based on our zoom and not based on our sphere. So we're going to change it so it's based on the sphere. And then we are going to set the material so it has that sort of translucent quality, and also rotate the building. We will also check for overlap. I plan on doing that in this video as well, but the overlap will take a bit of time to do, and it will just be simpler to do with the other stuff. All of that said, likes are much appreciated. I hope this video has taught you something useful. If it hasn't, or if it has, let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what's working for you in this series, what more you would like to see, and I hope to see you in next week's video or next week's lessons. And as always, I hope that you have a wonderful day.